Hi and welcome back to another video of JPlay. I am Marcus and today I'll walk you through a couple of turns / rounds. Let's see how things go of Beasts and Diplomacy, a game designed by Mike Rebel. Hopefully I'm not butchering his name. This game is launching on Kickstarter, I believe 29th of June, and it's being published by Dragon Dawn Productions, who kindly reached out to me and provided me this review copy here. I'm speaking about a review copy, a prototype, but a lot of these things already look very polished, I might say. I even had the opportunity to play I think the first round of the game with a designer himself who explained me the ins and outs. I have to say though that the rulebook, I think that's really one of the best and most detailed rulebook I have ever seen in a preview prototype copy of a game. So really nicely done. I think I had only one or two minor questions, but only in respect to confirmation. So the actual teach was very quick because I already knew the game. This game sort of comes with a solo mode. No, it really comes with a solo mode, but it's somewhat of a beat your own score. No, you have a clear target value, so you have to make it to 100 influence points in order to win it, but you're not really playing against a solo AI of any sort. You really have to beat these 100 points. If that is not enough though, you can spice up your solo game by going through these achievements here. Authoritative. Win a solo game with at least 150 solo points or influence points and things like that. Win a solo game with at least 18 influence points from a single quest. So things like that. So you can really spice things up. The normal multiplayer game can be played up to 6 players. I'm not sure if your first game you should even consider that playing that with 6 game, because there is so many information on a lot of these cards which you have to analyze to make a meaningful turn that it can simply, I think this playtime can easily double when using 6 players here. It's really a lot. The game itself is really not overly complex or complicated itself. It's really its depth and the amount of different icons that you have to pay attention to make really a meaningful turn can be a tad overwhelming at first, but I think I will get to that. Today I will cover the solo mode because mechanically it's really not too different, and I've already prepared the game board here, and I think for the most part it doesn't really matter if you play 1 or a 6-player game. You always play with a lot of cards to choose from. There are some very minor things. You will have these blocker tokens basically on some of these spaces. This doesn't say you can't go to these places. They simply are not yet quite as powerful compared to whatever space where you could normally go. So you see this infinity symbol down here. This tells you can even use this space when this space is blocked, but you don't get the extra benefit from this one. So you're really not taking a lot of things away from you, and that's also the same case in a multiplayer game. But again, it's can be quite nice because you are gaining some extra victory points from that. And in a multiplayer game there are a lot of, let's say, timing things where you really want to wait until someone is taking a particular turn because they could bring out more of these cards back, stuff like that. I think I will cover that. But ultimately what are we trying to do here? Ultimately we are in a fantasy kingdom world of Altera, Neutralia and the Solstice Festival. We are trying to impress some of the so-called diplomats by presenting them, let's say, the most curious and interesting creatures that we are catching. Basically, that's our mission. We can sell these to traders and we can hire personnel and things like that. Thematically, if you know a game like Carnival of Monsters, when I started reading this, I was automatically drawn to Carnival of Monsters. But in respect to the game, yes, this is also some kind of a drafting game, but from what I know, there is really no connection. So maybe it wasn't even inspired by that, though it's really coincidental from what I understood. But that's what we are trying to do. Impress some of our patrons, our diplomats, in order to score points. And whoever normally in a multiplayer game scores the most amount of points after 3 full days is basically then called the winner. There is definitely a title or so. There is a nice little map down here in the rulebook simply to get you into the theme, but ultimately there is no real game board where we are, whatever, dealing with the dudes on a map kind of game. So this is really only thematically, let's say, providing some sort of a flavor. Here is our player, Kena of Mount Azure, Sapphire Drive. We are the blue player. Apart from that, there are no real special abilities. So we are now flipping this one over because this simply gives us one of these so-called cages. We can house creatures in these cages, and we are also starting the game with an environment. We can acquire more environments throughout the game, but they will cost us some money. I think ore is the currency in this game. It already comes with some kind of a maintenance cost, and really managing your money is really key in this game. But there are a lot of ways how you can gain money from your diplomats, from your patrons, for example, or selling them to a trader and things like that. Apart from that, we have our little home base here. This is where we will keep our quest card later on, where we will score our or where we can put in our traders. This is where we are keeping our creatures later on. We will start the game with 4 workers basically and 20 of this ore. We will really need this ore throughout the game, rest assured. And we are also starting the game with 5 of these cards. Typically you get them semi-randomly at the start of the setup, but we have these so-called starting sets. So when you are an unexperienced player like myself, you can basically put together whatever the 5 cards that all show the A symbol. Your next player would get the B symbol, for example. That's a cool, let's say, not really a catch-up mechanic, but a balancing mechanic. So if someone knows the game relatively well, you simply give them some random cards. If you play with someone who's new, they would get maybe a preset deck. And the only difference here is that these cards have some synergies to each other. So you don't have to start from scratch. I always kind of like this. So yeah, we have 1 personnel card, 2 of these diplomats, we have 1 beast or 1 creature, and here we have a trader. I think this is a standard trade. So we have a standard trader and elite traders, but again, we will cover those when we get there. So, and I think with that being said, we should be more or less good to go. Normally up here, you would show the player order because I'm playing alone. Again, there is no real AI player. There is no AI player here. It's basically all by myself, but we are starting the very first day. So we're using this die. You can use this die to determine the initial player order, for example, but after that you're not longer rolling this die. It only shows you which day you're in. But the very first step of each day is the dawn. Give each knight 2 quest cards, but because we are playing the solo variant, draw 3 quest cards. In a multiplayer game there is already an interesting mechanic in there because you can pick up your cards, you can put them onto the table. Other players could pick up cards that they have placed there. This could change your mind. So there's an interesting, let's say, interactive element to that. Because I'm simply playing solo here, I'm now supposed to draw 3 of these cards, and I will keep 1. Why 1? Because we are currently on day 1. On day 2, I will keep then up to 2 cards from mine. I still draw 3 more, and then I can choose the best 2 of all the cards that I have, and ultimately at day 3, we are keeping 3 cards. So that's basically how many quest cards you will be able to score at the end of the game. So let's draw the 3 cards here. 1, 2, and 3. And again, right now I have to keep 1 of those. And looking at my cards that I've drawn here, things are not so easy. I believe the Purity one isn't really extremely exciting for me, and the Imperium also not. And the way how this works is basically they give you that many amount of victory point for each of the monsters that you have at the end of the game. This is an Imperium monster, basically a monster that is from the Imperium region. And I even have to check, yeah, here is one, for example, the Glacial Menace. If we have this card at the end of the game, this card would score me 3 victory points here. But apart from that, this card doesn't necessarily help me. But I believe I have already seen some sort of a synergy, and this is what the designer calls information hell. But again, when you play this game, whatever, 2-3 times, you start to see things a little bit clearer. So I think I will simply discard those. Again, in a normal multiplayer game, all the other cards I wouldn't have drawn. I would have only drawn 2. The other card would have been placed into the middle, and another player could pick it up, say, oh wow, that's the perfect card for me. me, I will take this instead, and we'll leave something else on the table. And only when we all then agree to pass will we move on to the next round of the game. But for now, I think I will hold on to this one here. That is quite all right. Then we would jump into the morning phase, which ultimately means we would now place cards on the board. And here I'm not even sure if I already cheated, if I should have been able to see the cards or not. I believe playing this on Tabletop Simulator, the cards were there already. But anyway, so now we would do this, and after we have done that, we are now basically going in turn order, placing workers onto the board, starting to draft those cards. So this is kind of partly the meat of the game. There are more phases with the meat of the game, but that is partly a meat. That's I don't know, yeah, you get the idea. There's a lot of decision making in this game. So now we are starting to place workers onto the board, and we do have some choices to choose from. We could go here to gain a trader, we could go here to gain some more beasts, we could go here to gain some more patrons or diplomats, we could go here to hire some more personnel. Ultimately, we can also, as an action, play one of these cards here. So these personnel cards come basically in two flavors. One of those are these one-time use cards, and the other ones are basically those two here. So I think ultimately maybe there are three different kind of cards. So they more or less go next to I keep forgetting what those are called, environments, I believe, and they go right next to a monster. Typically they give you some money, or they reduce the overall amount of maintenance that you have to pay. In some cases they can somewhat recolor some of the creatures so that you can further optimize those. But again, as part of this step, basically during the morning, we could play a card like this, and this card particular can be played in any of the 5 phases here. So we don't have to play it here, we can also play it later. But I think in this case the sooner the better, because I'm playing alone. No one is really taking cards away from me. This is really the main difference to a multiplayer game, and this is where the interaction starts. You can play this game kind of mean if you really know it quite well. You can take particular creatures away from someone else. But again, here I'm really playing alone. I'm playing my little puzzle, trying to get to 100 points. So this is something I think I should be playing relatively soon, because the more information you have and the sooner you have that information, I think ultimately the better it is. In a multiplayer game, it's usually a good thing getting after these creatures before someone else is taking them away, because they are not automatically replenished. Only basically at the start of the next turn during morning, we are pretty much bringing them out again. There are later on ways when you want to, let's say, reactivate one of your workers, then potentially someone could bring more cards back into the offer, but that's not going to happen in the solo mode here either, because again, I'm playing alone. And as I already said, we are trying to achieve this quest card here. We don't have to stick to this quest card here though, keep that in mind, because we are drawing more cards at the start of the next day and then the third day as well. We can completely get rid of this. So we have not really committed ourselves, but I think we can actually make this one work. And this is now where the information hell comes into the picture. We have the melting troll arc here. And again, when we look at this card here again, this satisfies the demand. It's a beast or a creature that comes with a 1 maintenance cost. So this card alone would already score 3 points at the end of the game. Out of the 100 we at least need. But of course there are other ones out here. Why is this one so particular interesting? This is another mechanic of the game, or another scoring opportunity at the end of the game, and these are the so-called patrons here. No, that's the wrong one. This patron, if we are playing them out, or a diplomat here, they come in 3 stages. We have patrons, we have nobles and royals, I believe. This guy here gives me 4 points if I will be able to get 3 different animals that basically have the water element on them. So this is why that this card or this beast here will satisfy the demand for this card and this card. And that was one of the reasons why I thought, okay, maybe we could really make this work. Apart from that, I think it doesn't do an awful lot. We will get some money when we are playing it out, but that's coming in the later stage. And that's the main reason why I think, and sorry for the long blurb, but you have to understand why we are taking some of these decisions. So I think we want the melting Trolloc. There might be a much better opportunity out there, which I'm currently not seeing, but I think at least it's something worth showing to you. So in order to draft a card from the beast area down here, we will have to place one of our workers either in one of those priority spots, or how they are called, premium spots. I keep forgetting what those are, if it is still available. If not, we could always go in here. And this is again infinity symbol. Everyone can go there with any amount of them. But because it's here, we will go there. And this immediately gives us one of these favor chips here. The favor chips on their own are worth anything actually. But as soon as you get the third of these favor chips, you're exchanging them into a medal. And these medals are worth 2 influence points at the end of the game. And if you group them together into a group of 3, that group is worth an additional 3 influence points. So basically a group of 3 is then ultimately worth 9 points. But again, right now we only have 1 favor. But again, as soon as we get the third one, we will be able to cash it in. Now that we have placed our worker here, we are allowed to grab any one of those here, and we will ultimately go for the melting Trolloc here. For now, it goes into our hand. In theory, there is no real hand size limit, but all of these cards on the backside basically show you what happens to them at basically the end of a round. So this is the 5th step of the game. If we are not using this card, if we are not displaying or selling that creature here, we will simply have to discard it. So we cannot really hold on to this. On the other hand, the personnel cards here on the right hand side, if we not play them in a meaningful way, they will simply cost us 1 extra maintenance at the end of the round. And that's so nicely done that all these informations are printed on the components and stuff. You don't really need an awful lot of, let's say, player aids in this case. There is a nice player aid for these one-time personnel cards, and there will be more player aids for all the others. That's, I think, not yet finished, but they come, or they are finished right now, but they're not part of my copy here. But again, ultimately, this is how these work. And for now, we are taking this into our hand, and I think we should be able to display this creature basically in a later point in time of this round. But this was already our first action. We still have 3 more workers to go, and I think I just noticed something. I'm playing here on the wrong side of this card. So this is the family version here. So good that I showed this to you, and I'm pretty sure that Mike was screaming at the screen when he saw that. So that's the family version, which is a, let's say, somewhat reduced, because I was already concerned. So these quests go in here, and here will go the traders, and here will go our creatures. It doesn't really matter. In a normal multiplayer game, these things are ultimately face down, of course, so no one really exactly knows what you have, unless you have taken something from the display. But again, for the sake of the solo play, we will keep it here. So yeah, okay, already something I somewhat goofed up, but no real harm was done here. But what I was going to say, even if we only have 3 more workers to go, again, we still have this card in our hand, which we could use in a multiplayer game. You could also pass, and passing means when it is your turn again and no one else has passed, you will collect 1 ore, and then you can still get back into the game, which is a nice way to score you some extra coins in the end. Not so much again in a solo game. If I pass, this part is over. But no, we can also use these workers once they are employed to exhaust them. Then I will either pay some coins or we'll have to basically pay cards into the reserve back again. So I could spend 2 of these cards. They go into their respective areas, and this would then allow me to take one of my workers that is already deployed, and I could redeploy them, for example, over here. Then I would lie them down, basically telling me, okay, we have used him, so we cannot use them again. And there is another benefit when we were able to exhaust all of our workers. So really, we impressed the Emperor in this case. We are gaining some extra rewards from that as well. And I think these are the favor tokens as well. So something that you might want to do, but can be a little bit costly. But for now, we don't need to do that. So we are still here, but we can take our second action now. For our second action, I think I want to get another Diplomat here, Vienna. So we're going here. It's still one of these high priority spots. So again, this gives us one more of those. And I think again, I want to go for her. Why her? Because she wants basically 2 beasts with a yellow color. And my starting beast has the yellow color. So I already have halfway completed her requirements. And because I will most likely present this beast a little bit later on, she will also immediately get me some extra coins. So I think overall this works for me. So I will also grab her and put her into my hand. And then we have 2 more workers at our disposal. And we could go for another trader. We do have a trader on our hand who we might sell some beasts to. And maybe let's have a quick look at those traders here. So that's a standard trader. They're not really completely different to an elite trader. Elite traders simply are, let's say, demand a little bit more fancy stuff, but give you more coins and victory. No, only more coins in the end. So in order to sell something to this particular trader here, you have to satisfy the primary demand of the trader, which basically means we need a beast with this symbol here. And there's a name for all of these categories, but for example, let's get back to the Glacial Menace here. This would already satisfy the first demand. So in theory, we could pick up this card and sell it to this trader. The problem is you want the extra symbols down here as well, because that's the standard price we are getting when we only have 1 symbol. For each additional supporting symbols down here, we get 3 more coins. So ideally you find 1 beast, and it has to be 1 beast that is showing all 3 of this symbol. In this case, you would get 8 coins and the 3 victory points at the end of the game. Again, this is the mandatory one. If your beast doesn't have this symbol, you can't sell to this particular trader. So the question is there something on the board that would satisfy at least 2? That's the target you're always aiming for. You want at least 2 symbols, then it's actually worth it. So we already have established this one. Yeah, it would work, but it only has 1 symbol. Similarly here, this is the primary symbol, the Tense Leonidas, but also doesn't really work here either, unfortunately. No, that is a bummer. Over here, the Solemn Stormfur, yeah, also has the primary symbol, but doesn't have, let's say, the other symbols down here. So I think we can't really make this particular trader happy. The question now is there a trader out here who we could basically gain, who would then match maybe one of those traders for all of these creatures down here? And this is really where you're going through, or can go through, some sort of an analysis paralysis. So I haven't really looked at this, so let me think about this off camera for a second. And actually we have a beast on the board who would satisfy the elite trader and would give us at least 1 of these bonus criteria. So that would be 8 coins if we're selling this beast to, and 3 victory points. So when you satisfy the demand, you keep those traders, you will put them to the side of your basically player board, and you will score these points at the end of the game. All the points are scored at the end of the game, basically. But because we have this fella basically at our disposal, we may want to play him first, because he pretty much allows us to take 3 cards from more or less the pile, and from those 3 we have to keep 1 of those. And maybe we are lucky enough to find a beast that magically matches 1 of those traders fully, for example. And again, all of those are fully explained here on this one, and there's also the chances of how likely it is to find 1 of these particular symbols here. For example, gray color, only 16 monsters in the deck. The purple is only 12. You even color coded here, so these elements only 3, so 3% of the entirety of the deck. So if you really want to get into expert level gameplay, this table will help us. And again, here we have the bottom, apologies, the splitter, split one of the B stacks into approximately equal halves. It doesn't really matter too much, but Mike also told me it gives you some sort of an illusion of a choice in the end. But yeah, draw 3 beasts from the top of the bottom half, restore the deck. You must add 1 beast to your hand, trash the other. And again, we have 2 decks. We do that just for, let's say, logistics, because it's really a lot of cards, which is why it gives you, basically everyone can see over those. It doesn't matter which one of those I take, they have been shuffled equally, so there is really no staging or so whatever done. So I'm simply going from this one here. We will take the top 3 cards from the bottom half of this deck. We are basically repairing the deck or whatever, and then we are choosing 1 card from these 3 here. So here we are, and I either choose them for a potential trade, or I choose a card which could help me satisfying my goal. And again, looking at my quest here, this Cascade Scion only gives me 1 victory point at the end of the game, but it helps me here, and it's a water elemental, and I think we did have one of those exactly. Croc here, the patron, he wants these water elementals here. So this could be already something worthwhile. On the other hand, we could basically search for some opportunities to sell it off. But as we already have someone who is quite okay actually, and we can hold on to traders, by the way, for free. I will quickly go through the traders here again for those things. But again, right now I'm tending to go for the Cascade Scion because it simply already helps me with a lot of my cards. And indeed, there was no better constellation out, so I will simply grab this one, and this splitter is basically discarded for now, out of the game. It goes into my hand. Again, I have either display this beast or I will sell it. I can sell it relatively easy, but I think I want to hold on to this a little bit later. Those 2 are simply going into the trash pile. Not even sure if they go up here face up or face down. Doesn't really matter too much, but that was actually already my action. And then I think we are going here. Unfortunately, these 2 priority or high priority slots are taken in a solo game, so I'm not gaining any more of those favor tokens here. And again, the idea was to go for this fella, if I recall that correctly. Yes, indeed. So we're getting this elite trader for now. Again, this trader goes into our hand. The hand can get relatively messy, but you are playing a lot of these cards in later stages of this day. And with our last normal worker, we will grab another beast, and we need the Staunch Overlord. Again, the Staunch Overlord will simply be sold most likely. Yeah, I have to see, but that's basically already the end of our action phase done in theory, because again, we can now exhaust those fellas. In order to exhaust them, we either pay ore, we have a lot of ore still at our disposal, or we are getting rid of cards. But again, right now, the cards that we have were really chosen carefully, so I still want to bring them out here just to get me something else. You will use this option of the game most likely more often when you are playing with a normal setup where you're getting more random cards and you say, yeah, come on, I can whatever, they don't serve me in any way. It's better to discard 2 cards that you can't work with for 1 maybe perfect card. So for now, if I want to do that, I will most certainly pay ore in order to do that. And I think we may want to consider taking another personnel card. So what do we have? Again, we have, these are basically monster personnel or creature personnel. These are environmental. We have these one-offs. I haven't really looked at those actually, but for now anyway, I will now spend 5 of our very, very valuable ore to take this fella, and I get to choose which I'm taking from. The only real limitation is I can't not just stay whatever. I will use him and blame here, for example. He has to go to a different action slot. So I will take this fella here, making this one available again. I have paid my 5 coins and I will basically place it here. And you see this little symbol here, the house that is crossed out. This means that in the family version of this game, and I think there's even an overlay for this one here. You're not using the personnel simply to keep things a little bit easier. And I think also certain cards, so quest cards, for example, you're not using like this one here. So in the family version, you would remove this card here, for example. Okay, the question now is, and we have to lay him down. I think I already explained it, though. This guy is now exhausted. We can't relocate him again this round. But who are we drafting here? The collector is quite nice because she gives us 5 income basically at the end of each round, and we are in first day basically. The problem with her is we have to spend 1 and we have to assign it to an environment. And the problem up here is once we place the collector to the environment, this environment can no longer house a beast. And these environments also cost us 3, but she also gives us 2 victory points basically at the end of the game. He gives us some coins for pairs of housed monsters. I think that's too early. This would be a cool card for maybe day 2 or day 3. The matron is something I'm considering. She's basically the same as the splitter. We are taking 3 cards this time from the bottom of the deck. No, she is a patron, so she gives us a diplomat from the top of the deck. The maid does basically the same thing as the splitter here, basically. No, it's also not. No, the seer. What am I talking about? The seer. That's she pays, or the seer allows us to draw 3 cards from the bottom of the deck, and yeah, keep 1 of those. And the maid. Oh, the maid I haven't checked actually. Okay, we gain 3 ore for each pair of diplomats you have welcomed in your diplomat stack. That's also not great because I think most likely I'm not going to get another patron or diplomat this round, right? Let me see. Or is there something where I think there is a perfect one? Yes, in theory you could now go through the information hell again and try to see if one of those particularly me or requires one of those down here. So maybe that is something worth considering. So that is 6 coins. But again, right now I like the idea of the seer simply giving me more choices for monsters, actually for creatures. And the Rockmaster, by the way, when I assign him to a beast, he more or less turns one of these symbols into a rock symbol. So for example, I could make this ruby manta instead of the water element, because it's the same thing here. We would now turn this ruby manta into a rock monster instead, if we so decide. This can really help you to satisfy the demands of a quest card or a patron, for example, or one of those diplomats. So no, I think I am going to grab the seer for now. She goes into my hand, and I think with my next action I guess we are immediately playing her, actually. Doing the same thing, more or less. So we are grabbing 3 cards now from the bottom of this deck. Again, it doesn't matter whatsoever. It's an illusion of choice in the end. And here are the 3 cards that we have drawn, actually. And again, I have to go through those to see if there is something I could really use to some extent. And I think I see a potential for the pure surveyor here. We could sell him to our trader. No, not to our trader. There was another trader out. Who was that? I think this fella here, actually. Yeah, let's do that. So we are grabbing this card into our hand. Those 2 are again discarded. But this also means we have to spend 5 more coins to relocate this fella. So 5 more ore here. And again, the idea was to go for this trader. He gives me the 5 coins only back in theory, but he's also worth 3 victory points at the end of the game. That's basically how you have to think about those. And then ultimately, I think, when I now decide to relocate 2 more of my workers, I exhausted all of my workers, which again ultimately gives me 1 more favor, and this 3rd favor transforms into a medal, and this medal is worth 2 victory points. So is that something that we want to do? Do we really necessarily need another beast? And I think the only, either we really find something worth selling here, but I think I already have established that doesn't really work. So the next constellation I might want to consider is patron, and maybe one of those beasts here. And indeed, I may have found the perfect combination. So we are exhausting this fella. He moves over here, therefore I spend 5 again. He has to go to a different action because we were using the priority. We are taking the third one here. We have now 3. We are exchanging those into a medal, which again ultimately is worth 2 victory points at the end of the game, potentially a little bit more. And I think by also exhausting this fella, moving him over here again, this gives us this favor back. It's a priority slot. We have to spend our final cash. Let's see if this works out or not. I have no clue. I haven't really counted this one through. But again, this allows me to grab this royal here. And the royals are, let's say, the somewhat, yeah, they're the most demanding ones among the diplomats because they have more or less, they want 2 bees, but these 2 bees have to satisfy 2 distinct criteria, basically. So for example, we need an animal from this area and they need to be an omnivore, for example. I think you get the idea. But they're also worth 6 victory points at the end of the game, and they give you slightly more money when you're bringing out those creatures. But I think we can try to make this work actually. Now I have to pass because I can't really redeploy anyone else. I don't have any more green cards in my hand. This could have been a mistake or not. Let's see about that. But ultimately we have to pass because we are playing solo. I'm not getting any coins in a multiplayer game. When you pass, you get 1, or unless you are the last person to pass, then the round is immediately over and you're not getting anything. But because all of our folks are now exhausted, these guys not, because they will come in basically at the end of this round, we will get 1 more favor. So the king or the emperor is really, really happy with us. Nicely done. And I actually forgot to move it into phase 2. Now we are basically going into phase 3, which means welcoming our diplomats. And I think we are welcoming them all. There is a good amount of penalty which you get when you bring out one of those diplomats and you're not able to satisfy their demands. But I think for now we should be okay. We only need to see the bottom half for now, actually, just to help us getting through again information overload. But we already start to see, okay, these guys want this. So we have this royal here, the Triad, who wants 2 distinct creatures. They want 2 distinct creatures from yellow and so on. So you get the idea. But that's already the phase 3 done. And now we come to the next meaty section of the day, which is the afternoon. And this is also done in player order. And now all the players do their stuff basically as part of their turn. So there are no more player turns per se. So when, or better put, when it's your turn, you are basically doing all of the actions for the afternoon at the same time. And this is the one piece when you're playing this with inexperienced players and more than, I don't know, 3-4 players, then things could really take a while. If you know the game relatively well, then it's really not that bad, obviously. It's really a game you have to get into it. Again, it's not complex or complicated. It's simply the depth and all the information that you have to process to make the best possible choice. During the afternoon, you can do all kinds of stuff. And that's more or less all laid out here. We can add environments. So if we need to house animals, we need environments. Each of those simply costs you 3 ore each. So that is something which I have to pay attention to. I really hope I have not messed things up now a little bit. You can house bees. You can sell bees to traders. You can deploy bees or personnel to that. And then when we are done, basically we are moving to the evening phase. And you can do these things whatever, willy-nilly in any sort of order. You can do first this, then you can do this, then you can add another environment. You get the idea. And we have to do that most likely because we will not be able, the most critical part now is to either deploy our personnel. I think we don't have any real personnel right now which we have to deploy, but if we want to buy more environments for 3 coins or 3 ores, we have to work for that. But I think we should be able to do that. So now bear with me. This might feel more complicated than it actually is. First of all, I think I want to deploy this fella here, the pure surveyor. This doesn't cost me anything, but if I would leave this combination here at the end of the day, basically during the night phase, I have to spend 3 coins for the pair of those as for maintenance. 1 for the environment and 2 for this particular beast. But I think we can do better than that. First of all, and this is now the tricky part of things, we check what animal have we displayed. It's the pure surveyor. So every player now gets the chance to have a look at this and see if one of their or more of their diplomats are kicking in. So this is not just exclusive for me, this also works for the other players. Now I'm playing solo, but in this case we check this symbol and we see, yes, this is actually a water elemental, which means we are making this patron here happy. So I get 1 coin for this just by displaying this animal. He is already quite happy. And if another player would have this particular diplomat basically displayed out, they would also gain whatever this coin here. This is something where you really have to show each animal to each of the players. But we have just gained our very first coin. Hooray! Now I think so. We want to sell this. Was the right one? Yeah, we want to sell this to this trader here because we are checking his main priority is it's a lizard kind of thing or reptile, I don't know. So we are meeting this requirement. So we're getting already 2 coins for that beast. But yeah, it's also coming from this area here, so the T. So in total we are gaining 5 coins for selling it to this thing, which means this beast is unfortunately sold. It's out of here, but we didn't necessarily need it right now. We may have to come back to that because we need ultimately 3 of those fellas out, but I think ultimately we get them. But we have made this trader very, very happy. So we are placing this trader next to our player board over here, and he will simply score us 3 points at the end of the game. So now we have some coins at our disposal, and that's basically how things work. And in theory we can do the same thing here, but I believe here we don't need to display it because it doesn't give us anything for our patrons here, unfortunately. And in a multiplayer game, in this case, you wouldn't display it, you would simply sell it. You can also directly sell it from your hand actually, and you can also do some kind of an emergency sell, which I think ultimately gives you 1 or 2 coins depending a little bit of how expensive they are actually. But in this case we are selling this fella right from our hand to this elite trader here. So we have met the primary requirement, and it's a rock creature. So ultimately we are gaining 8 coins for that. So that's not too bad actually. So that was really, really nice. So this trader is also quite happy. We are placing him here, and this animal has been sold. So now we do have some coins to work with. That is quite all right. Unfortunately, it didn't really help us here, but I think it's still worthwhile. Then I guess we are going to bring out this fella here. We can put this into our cage, and the cage, every player has a cage, and exactly 1 cage, and this cage allows you to house a monster with maintenance value of 1 and 2. So in this case we are simply placing this creature in here. Again, we check, does it meet any of our coins? Yes, this patron again, oh, he's so happy to see these water monsters. He gives us 1 more. Is anyone else? No, that's not flying, it's not yellow, and this one here I think doesn't also really work. But again, this is one of those we wanted for the end of our turn here anyway, right? Then let's keep going. I think we also wanted this one here. We are placing it out in a normal environment. We can place any monster in there, so that is out here. And who do we make happy here? So it's water, yes, he's happy. It's also flying, so yeah, Soya is also happy. So these are 2 more coins. We have made 2 of our patrons happy. It's also yellow, so yeah, Vienna also quite likes us for this. And then we have to check this one. No, I think it doesn't matter. It doesn't match the Dryad here. But that was really, really a worthwhile combination of cards. We have made 2 of our patrons happy with 1 of these monsters here. Nice. We have a 3rd monster still in our hand. In order to bring it out, we have to spend now 3 coins actually to buy ourselves another environment. And here the environments do not really matter. They are simply here for flavor. The inspiring lakelands looks really, really nice, but apart from the artwork, they're all the same actually. So we have spent the 3, and I guess we are going to also place the Cascade Scion in here because it also satisfies the demand of... Oh, did I do something incorrect actually? Yeah, of course. When I placed, I didn't get the card. I forgot that. I should have played, when I put my worker in here, I didn't take this card which I wanted to have. I did everything else, but again, this was missing actually. But okay, that's fine. We still want to bring this one out, and we have the same situation here. Happy, happy, because it's a water. It's a bird, so that's 2 more coins. So we are bringing 3 over to get another 5. Cool. It's not a yellow monster, unfortunately, and I think, yeah, it doesn't come from the right location. That's the first thing that you can always check. So making the triad happy is really, really challenging. And then we could actually debate. Yeah, I think we wanted to bring out this one too, actually. So we have to spend. Can we afford it though? Let me quickly check that. How much money do we need at the end of this round? 1, 4, 6. Easy. I think we should be okay. I don't know. Okay. 6 plus 5. I think we should be okay. So let's spend 3 more coins here to grab another environment, the Verdant Canyon. And we are bringing out the Glacial Menace here. And because I think we should be now actually able to make her happy. And I think only her indeed. So this is now a combined requirement. So it's coming from Imperium and it's a rock monster, which means one of those is sufficient. We are getting 2 more coins back just for displaying that. And again, keep in mind, this would also matter for all the other players. And I think we still have a trader. In theory, we could still sell something, but they do not come with any maintenance value. So we can simply hold on to this trader for the next round to come. And I think that is ultimately the end of the, what is it? Afternoon, and we were actually able to meet a lot of demands. So we have already made sure we are scoring basically 6 points for the wood here, because these are very low maintenance creatures. We have 3 water elementals out, so this patron is already happy, so he will score us 4 points at the end of the game, and we can reuse those, so they're not necessarily tied. So if this monster here, for example, it's also a bird, we can use the Swooping Splasher for this patron and for that patron. And we have also already made Soya happier because we have 2 birds, so that's another 4 points. Right now we only have 1 yellow monster out here, but I think we should be able to manage. And here for the Dryad we still need a beast from T, and who is an omnivore. And I think here I may have made a stupid mistake. No, I did not. Okay, I thought actually there was a creature, but yeah, I think we still have to get one of those. So that could be a challenging piece, but we still have 2 more entire days. And we still have some money now actually to make us or get us through the evening phase, which we're moving into. So now we do have to pay all our maintenance for all the cards we have in our hand. If we still have monsters, we would now have to basically force sell them, or we should have sold them before actually. Again, you can sell these monsters basically either for 1 coin minimum, or basically 2, whatever is high. I think it's 1 or 2 that you get when you simply sell it without using a trader, but then you don't get any victory points for a trader. I think you get the idea. But ultimately, we now have to spend 4, 6, 10, 11 coins for maintenance, which only leaves us with 6 coins for the next round to come. I'm not sure if this was a wise choice or not, because this could mean we are not going to exhaust our workers the very next day. We could still get away with cards, or can discard cards to exhaust them either. But yeah, maybe there are some cards out actually, some of the one-time use cards, which would give us some extra coins or so. Let's see. But for now, we have to spend those 11 coins. And then we move into the second day. So we are, already also flipping the die. We are getting an extra worker. I think all the other workers should have actually come home already. And I think also at the end of the morning, I should have trashed all the cards. So apologies for that. So everything that wasn't taken would have been discarded, because that's the first thing that you basically do here. So new cards only come out after we have drafted the new quest card. So maybe this is where I already kind of cheated in my very first round when I chose this card up here. But again, it wasn't really that big of a deal in the end. So we are basically here. We would now be drawing three more of those cards. Again, all those cards are gone here, so we don't really know what's out. Actually, apologies for the confusion. And these are the cards that we have at our disposal. So the Omnitheon gives us 5 points, I believe, for every set of 2 of these. Oh, omnivores. We have one omnivore already out there, but we need a pair. This is basically 2 points for each animal from a different color. And right now we have 4 different colors. So that is already 8 points alone. And this is pairs of grassland. So I think in this case, we will totally go for the rainbow card up here. Those 2 will be discarded because, again, will already score us some points. Then we would be moving into the morning phase. Now we would bring out more creatures, more traders and whatnot, and would go through basically the same turn again. Maybe let's have a quick look how many points we have already scored. So we know for a fact we have 1 point here, 2, 3, 4, 8 points here in total. That's another 2 points, so we have 10 points. We have 6 more points here from our traders. So that's also worth mentioning. And we have already satisfied the demand. So 6 more points here. So I think we're almost at 20 points here already. And we have 8 points here. And we already have established that we have 8 more points here. So I think you already start to see that this game is really, really manageable. But again, I was playing with the suggested setup. So a lot of these things were already kind of working together, right? There was some sort of a synergy. Normally you would simply have drawn, let's say, random cards, and then I'm relatively certain I wouldn't have been in that great shape as I'm right now. But I think I will end my walkthrough here. Again, apologies for that minor goof at the start of the very first day. Again, I think I wasn't allowed to see what is out there when I was choosing this quest card here. But yeah, give me that. Not that big of a deal. Again, all those cards shouldn't be here anymore. We will see completely new cards. That is something that you have to also keep in mind. So if you see a card here where you know there is only a very small amount of, then better grab it before it's gone, because now it's gone. There might be personnel cards which allow you to go through the discard pile or whatnot. I don't really know actually, but that is part of the game, more or less counting through or calculating the odds that work best for you again. So now we would bring out more of these folks. We would then again send our workers out, drafting more cards. Now we have 5 workers. So let me know what you think. Again, this game will be on Kickstarter on the 29th of July. I will certainly put in a link to the preview page. I believe there is already a preview page. Go check it out. Before I forget, a huge shout out to all of my patrons and channel members. You guys are truly amazing. Can't tell you how much I appreciate all your support. So if you want to support my little channel, go check out my Patreon, join me here on YouTube, click that little thanks button below the video, like and subscribe, leave a comment. This also greatly helps the channel and is really, really appreciated. And yeah, with that being said, hope to see you soon in one of my other videos, and until then, bye bye.